So in this video we will be seeing how to retrieve the username of the token. So before that we need to obtain the handle to that process. We can use the open process function, and this will give us the process handle, and we need to pass this to open the token of the process using the open process token function. So we will get a token handle, and then we will be using the function called get token information function to retrieve the specific information we want. So, and there are some couple of structures we are going to see. Okay, let's first get handle to the process. So you can Google for the WinAPI Rust, and you can copy the version, go to your cargo.toml file and paste like this. So I have already pasted this. So this is our WinAPI crate, and the version is 0.3.9, and the features we need to add all these features. So we are going to see how to add these features first. And now in this documentation, search for open process, and here you can see the process threads API. So this is the module, so that is called feature. We need to add that process threads API in this list. In the same way, you can Google for other Windows API functions like message box and see the corresponding module and add that module name in these features. So I have already added this one. Now I can directly use the function open process. I have already imported the all of these functions. You don't need to import, you can directly start typing open process, and this will suggest, and if you press on tab, the function gets expanded, and automatically the import of this open process will be automatically added on the top. So open process desired access, since we are not we are only querying the information, we can have minimal access. So we can just use this process query information. And inherit handle 0. Whatever the process we create from now on, those process cannot inherit our process handle. And the process ID, so we are going to use our own process. Let PID is equals to get current process ID. So put in the PID here, and the return value is proc handle. Now come down and see the return value. If the function succeeds, the return value is an open handle to the specified process, and if the function fails, the return value is null. So we can say if proc handle dot is null, print open process failed, and now print the get last error, and then we can directly exit the process. So now we have successfully got the handle to that process. Now we need to open the process token using the open process token function. So this takes 3 parameters. The first one is process handle we just got, and the second one is desired access, whether we want to adjust privileges or just querying, and any other access. And the third one is out parameter, so that means the function gives the puts the value in this third parameter, that is token handle. So we will be getting the token handle in the third parameter. Now open process token, and the first one is process handle. So this is the process proc handle. Okay, proc handle, and the desired access is here. We can specify all of these values. If you want to adjust the privileges, you can specify this one. For now we are only querying the information. And the third parameter is the out parameter. So let's say let mute token handle is equals to 0, and pass this mutable reference of this token handle variable to the third parameter. And come to the return value. If the function succeeds, the return value is non-zero. If the function fails, the return value is 0. So let res is equals to, now again if res is equals to 0, then that means this function has been failed, and open process token failed, and print the last error. And after printing this error, what we can do is we can close the process handle and directly exit the program. std process exit of 0. So now we are good to go. Now we have the token handle. So to retrieve the information, we can use the function called get token information. So this function retrieves a specified type of information about an access token. The calling process must have appropriate access rights to obtain the information, and we will see about this function later. And let's get to this, the function syntax. The first one is token handle. So it's straightforward. We have retrieved the token handle and we need to pass that in the first parameter, and the second parameter is token information class. So this is the enum contains the values. So this is the token information class. So this specifies what type of information we are going to retrieve: token user, groups, about privileges, owner, primary group, dark list, token source, etc. So there are so many types of information you can retrieve from the token. So for now we are going to use the token user. So that is the value 1, and the third parameter is out parameter. So a pointer to the buffer, the function fills the requested information. So the structure put into this buffer depends upon the type of information specified by the token information class parameter. So that means this this parameter gets filled according to the type of the information we want to retrieve. So for token user, the function will fill the buffer with the token user structure. So you can open this in new tab, and this is the token user structure. If you want to retrieve token groups, you will the function will fill the buffer with the token group structure, and so on. So it really depends upon the type of token information class we provide. And the fourth parameter is token information length, specifies the size in bytes of the buffer pointed by the token information parameter. So we specify some array of bytes here, and that length should be specified here. If the token information is not, this parameter must be 0. And the last parameter is return length, a pointer to variable that receives the number of bytes needed for the buffer pointed to by the token information parameter. So basically this parameter specify how much buffer you need to store the data this function is going to send into this buffer. So if you specify token user, the buffer size can be like 100 bytes, and token groups, the buffer size can be 500 bytes. So depend upon this token information class, the value of the size of the bytes changes. So what we are going to do is, we are going to first fill this function with null parameter and the information length as 0. Then the function fails and tells us that the required length is these many number of bytes. You actually don't need to do this step. If you can assign a array of like 1024 bytes, then that should be good enough. But it's a good practice to retrieve the required size before actual calling the function. So get token information, token handle, and the second parameter is token information class, that is the value 1. So 1, and the token information, a pointer to the buffer. So we are going to actually specify null, because in the first call of this function we are going to retrieve the amount of buffer size for our token user structure. And now in the fourth parameter pass 0, and now return length. So this is the important one. Let mute required length is equals to 0. Now pass the mutable reference of this variable. Now this function checks all the parameters, token handle and the token user structure and the null pointer. Whenever this is null pointer, then it will fetch the information and it will estimate the size and put that value in this required length parameter. So let result is equals to, come to the return value. If the function succeeds, the return value is non-zero, and if the function fails, the return value is 0. So if res is equals to 0, get token information failed for the error, and then again close handle, token handle, close handle, process handle, and then just simply exit. Okay, now let's go and run this, and at the end of this code we need to close the handles. So I have already written much code to retrieve the groups and privileges also, which I will be posting in the next videos. So cargo run, and we can see get token information failed 122. So 122, the data area passed to a system call is too small. So okay, that is intentional because we are passing 0. We can say end get last error not is equals to 122. Now we should be good to go. Now if I go and print the value of required length, now this should be not 0. So let's go and run this, and we can see the required length is 44. Now let's go and define an vector buffer vector of u8. So we are going to initialize the bytes as 0, and how many bytes? These many number of bytes required length. Okay, now we have our buffer. Now we need to call this function again, but with the pointer to the buffer in the third parameter and the buffer length in the fourth parameter. So we can just basically copy this function and paste here. In the third parameter, change this to buffer dot as new pointer, and converting into the raw pointer, and now buffer dot length as u32. Okay, now we are good to go. Now we can check the result again. If it's 0, then that means there is an error. So we can just directly copy this and paste here. So let's run this one. Okay, we are good to go. We did not get the error. Now we have the information required in this buffer. So what we can do is that is the token user structure. We need to get the information from this structure. So it contains only one member of type SID and attributes. So if you open this SID and attributes, you can see the first one is pointer to a SID. So the SID is the identifier for the user, and attributes tells us about that SID. So what we can do is we can say buffer of 0 dot dot. So in this buffer, we are going to marshal this buffer into the token user structure. So what we can actually do is we can define a variable of the token user structure and initialize it as 0 and fill that structure with this array content. So it will be normally like this: token user is equals to stdmem 0 token underscore user. And now we are going to use the write process memory to write the content from the buffer into this structure. That's going to be long process. So I have written a function called fill structure from array, and you can use that. It's just normal using write process memory, but for now we are going to directly marshal the buffer into the token user structure. So buffer of 0, from 0 onwards, the size of token user. We need to get the pointer and pointer to token user, and put this entire thing in the brackets and put a dereference operator. Now this will go and dereference it as a token user structure. So I can say let mute token user is equals to. So here you can see we have automatically marshaled the bytes into the token user and semicolon, so there are no errors. Now I can access the token user dot SID in okay token user dot user. Okay, the variable name is user dot SID. Now this is a pointer to the SID. You can see a star mute CY, it's a raw pointer. Now what we are going to do is we are going to fetch the actual name for the SID. So we can say we can use this function called lookup account SID W function. So this function accepts a SID as an input and it retrieves the name of the account for this SID. So the first parameter is system name. So on which system we have found this. If you pass null, we will be looking for the username in the local system. And second parameter is pointer to SID. And the third parameter is the output of the username this function writes to the buffer. And the fourth parameter is the domain name. This is length, I think, so you can just read this: system name, pointer to the SID, and the name is pointer to the buffer. And next parameter is the length of this input buffer. And lastly we will get the reference domain name, in which domain this user was found. If it's a local computer, we will get the computer name as a domain name. And if we our computer is connected to Active Directory, we will get the actual domain name in this reference domain name buffer. And the lastly is the size of this domain name buffer. So we will also get a structure SID name use, indicates the type of the account. Okay, let's go and use this function. Lookup account SID W. So the reason we are using W is we can get a long username. So maybe we are like a future proof to get more than 255 characters. So the first parameter is system name. We can pass null. And here the second parameter is pointer to SID. So what we can do is token user dot SID. And the third parameter is the name. So a pointer to the buffer that receives the null terminated string that contains the account name. So let's create a retmute username, and we need to create a vector of type U16 because we will be getting the UTF 16 bytes. And we need to create another variable that holds the length of this username. Similar way, copy these two variables and create exactly another two variables for domain name and the domain name length. So the third parameter is the pointer to this buffer, username dot as mute pointer and as mute U16, and the ampersand mute username length. So this variable contains the username length of the result we are going to retrieve. The dash parameter is pointer to a variable that receives SID name use. So it's actually a normal U32. So let mute SID name use is equals to 0. Okay, now we are good to go. Okay, we got some errors. Okay, as U32. Yes, U32. Okay, now we are good to go. Again, the function returns some value. Let's go and check that as well. Succeeds, returns non-zero. If it fails, returns 0. Let res is equals to, and we can copy the previous ones. And change the function name here. Account SID W failed. We are closing the handles and we are exiting. Okay, now we have these array. Now we need to convert this into proper string. So we can do that. Let username is equals to string from UTF-16 lossy. We need to pass the reference to this buffer dot to string. So let's go and print this username. So let's go run this and we should see the username, and we can see we got the username Nagas, and the same can be done. So copy this and the domain name. So this computer is not connected to Active Directory. We will get the computer name as a domain name. That is the Acer Nitro. Okay, now we are good up to now. We need to retrieve the SID information as well. So I googled like this and I got this one function convert SID to string SID A. So we'll be using W function, and we already have the pointer to SID. The first parameter is pointer to SID, and second parameter is pointer to a variable that receives a pointer to null terminated string. So that means we need to create another temporary variable to hold the pointer that is pointing to this null terminated string. So let's do this. Convert SID to SID string W. Token user dot SID. So let's create a variable. Buffer2 is equals to 0. So we need to pass the mutable reference for this buffer 2. Okay, let mute string SID, declare a vector u16. As mute u16. Okay, now we are good to go. Again, let res is equals to, if res is equals to 0, convert SID to string SID w failed. Now we are automatically exiting. So you no need to write like this, you can directly write the function. So if convert SID to string SID w directly without writing this res. Okay, now if you print the value of the buffer, it will have the pointer that is pointing to the so buffer 2. So if you run this, so this at this address we will have the u16 bytes. We need to convert them into string. So let's do that. So what we can do is we can say let mute remitter is equals to 300. So we are assuming that the SID string length does not exceed 300. So std pointer read, we are going to read u16 bytes at a time. So 2 bytes at a time. Buffer 2 dot as so we are reading we are reading 2 bytes at a time. Let temp is equals to, and we are pushing that value into this string SID, string SID dot push of temp. Now if I go and print the temp value, okay, not temp but converting the string SID into a string. Now we will get the yes. So yes is a starting, so the SID string starts with the SID. So we can loop over this one while remitter, so let's say this remitter as 0, while remitter less than 300, and we keep on pushing the values. Remitter plus is equals to 1. Also we can put another breakpoint whenever we read temp as 0. If temp is equals to 0, then break the loop. Now we should good to go. So from 0 onwards up to 300, the assumed length of the SID string, we are reading 2 bytes at a time and we are pushing into the buffer. If the read value is 0, then we are breaking out the loop. Otherwise we are incrementing one time and we are reading. So let's run this. Okay, we did not increment this one. So buffer plus 2, I think, because it takes 2 bytes. No, I into 2. Okay, sorry, my bad. Not I into 2, it's limiter into 2. Limiter into 2. Okay, now we are good to go. Now we can see we got the SID string of this user. So who am I /r, you will see 1001 and 6752. Yes, so that's all for this video. We have retrieved the username and the domain name in which the user exists and the string SID for that user using the Windows API in Rust.